Hey guys, it's Nicole coming to you from Osaka and welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to talk about the different types of teaching jobs that are available in Japan and to go into a little bit of detail about what kind of job that I currently have. So let's get started. So when you think about teaching jobs in Japan, the first thing that probably comes to mind is ALT work. So ALT is assistant language teacher, and it depends on the school, of course, because sometimes you're leading the class and other times you're just supporting the Japanese teacher who is leading the class, and you're letting the kids hear natural pronunciation, which means you're basically like a human tape recorder. Some of the pros of this type of work would be that you have good hours because it's in public school, so Monday through Friday, and then you'll get holidays like spring, summer, winter vacation, which is pretty good. And some of the cons of ALT work is the pay. Unless you're on the JET program, I know the JET teachers get paid pretty well, but from what I've seen, it doesn't seem like ALTs get paid that much, especially after your first year when you have to start paying pension, residence tax, and all that stuff. Then the salary just becomes not enough. And another con I've heard is that it can be very lonely and boring because a lot of times, especially if you're far out in the countryside, you might be the only native English speaker around, so it can be very isolating and very lonely. And I've also heard that it gets boring because it's not really like challenging work. It's not your class. So yeah, I personally don't have any experience being an ALT. One of my friends was on the JET program, so here's her channel. And another channel I've seen is this one. So I don't know if he still is an ALT, but he was for a while, so he's very knowledgeable about that. So yeah, that's ALT work in a nutshell. One thing I almost forgot is that there's a very, very little chance that you'd be placed in a big city because there's more of a demand for teachers in the countryside. So keep that in mind. Like if you really want to live in Tokyo or Osaka, then maybe being an ALT is not the best option to get to do that. The next type of English teaching work is a kaiwa, so A for English and kaiwa for conversation, so English conversation school. There are some that are only kids, some that are only business for adults, and then a good portion of them are just a mix of adult and kids classes. So opposite of the ALT one, which can be very routine and boring, from what I've heard, the Kaiwa classes, I guess in a way, can be more exciting because you're seeing so many different people all of the time, and there's a variety of ages for the students too, so yeah, your day is probably not boring. So that's one pro. And I think it's a unique experience to work at an Kaiwa because if you go to other foreign countries to teach English, it's usually kids only, and then in Japan you have the option to teach adults as well, so you meet a lot of interesting people. So when I went to language school for a few months, I wanted to try out the Kaiwa thing just to see how it was different to work with adults than it was to work with kids. And I do think that it was a very valuable experience, and I met a lot of cool people doing Kaiwa work, but the cons of it are you have to work nights and weekends, and maybe sometimes you get lucky with consecutive days off, like Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, but a lot of people have off like 2 random days that are not in a row, so yeah, it wasn't for me. And I really don't like working late at night. It was difficult to get home at like 11 or so from the Kaiwa job and then wake up at 7 or so for school the next day. Another con of Kaiwa work is that most of the time you have to wear a suit. And it's kind of funny because even if you have kids classes, you're still wearing a suit, which is like, why? You don't really look friendly if you're wearing a suit. I don't know. And most Kaiwas have very little vacation time. They might be open on national holidays, and yeah, most of them probably don't have summer and winter vacation, so that's another thing to keep in mind. I'll never forget when I interviewed for Nova, and the interviewer, one of the first things he said was like, oh, the joke is that Nova stands for no vacation. Oh, like, why would I take the job after you said that? The next type of English teaching job is a bit more rare, and that is being an in-house English teacher for a company. So when I was living in Tokyo, a recruiter had emailed me about a position with Panasonic to be their in-house English teacher, and the salary was awesome, and yeah, it was like with a big company, so I'm sure that they had national holidays and all that kind of stuff off too. But those jobs are very competitive. Like, the recruiter contacted me at first, and the company had also asked me to submit a resume in Japanese as well, even though it wasn't technically required for the job, but it was preferred if the candidate spoke Japanese as well, just because it could get lonely in the office otherwise if you don't speak any Japanese at all. And so I made this Japanese resume as well. I had a friend check over it, and I sent it to them, and they didn't even end up interviewing me, which was very sad. So yeah, if you could get that type of job, that would be pretty awesome, but it's very rare and very competitive. The fourth type of teaching job in Japan is what most of my experience here has been in, and that is at international schools and preschools. So for international schools, like legitimate ones where it's like international elementary and junior high school and high school, you would probably need some credentials for that, like a master's in education or something. But for international kindergartens and preschools, you don't really need anything other than a bachelor's degree. Yeah, most of my experience has been in international schools. So as you may know, when I first came to Japan, I moved to Tokyo with a tourist visa, and yeah, I just started job hunting when I arrived in Japan, which, like, I'm from the US, so it's very easy for Americans to come to Japan on a tourist visa and look for work after that. Like, I know for other countries, such as the Philippines, you need a tourist visa to be issued from immigration, so when that expires, you don't have the option to just go for a visa run and come back to Japan. You would need to go through that process with immigration all over again, so that's unfortunate. But for American people, it's really easy to do that. So within the first few days, I went for an interview at Kids Duo, which is a kids eikaiwa, and I didn't take that job, but at the interview I met another American dude, and he ended up taking a job at a preschool, and they were still looking for another teacher, so he recommended me for it, and that is how I got my first preschool teaching job. So preschools are really good because it's probably going to be Monday through Friday, also pretty good hours, somewhere in the 9 to 5 range, and a lot of these schools get national holidays and spring and summer vacation as well. So the pros for preschool jobs would, of course, be the hours. And another pro, I think, is that you get to spend so much time with the same students, so you really develop a relationship with them, as opposed to eikaiwa classes where you're just with them for about an hour once a week, so you don't really have much of a relationship with them. So, but with preschool kids, because you spend so much time with them, like, yeah, they really love you. And the kids at preschools and kindergartens, they'll usually be from ages 1 to 6. A lot of schools start taking students at 1.5 years. So if you don't like kids and you're grossed out by runny noses and you're pretty like low energy person, then maybe preschool is not for you. I mean, I think I'm naturally pretty low energy, but I have to play the part of a preschool teacher when I'm at work. One of the cons of this type of job would be that if your voice is naturally soft, you may lose your voice a lot. So I have a few times, and my throat hurts a lot at the end of the days just because I'm like projecting it so much. And another con would be that classroom management is challenging. It's, I mean, doable, of course, but yeah, at first it was really a challenge for me, and I think it's something that I've improved on a lot. I mean, I'm not perfect, of course, but I've learned through these 3 years of teaching that if the kids are acting up in your class, it's the teacher's fault. The teacher is not entertaining them or just like doing stuff that they don't understand. Especially at a younger age, if you expect kids who don't understand English to just sit there and listen to you and follow all of your directions, then you're in for a wake-up call, I guess. So yeah, but if you're up for the challenge, then preschool is a good job for you. And I think it's not as easy to get a preschool job as your first teaching job in Japan. I was lucky because someone had recommended me for the job, and I was also in Japan at the time to be there for an in-person interview. I don't know as many people who have been hired from abroad to work at preschools, but of course it's possible. So since I finished my very brief stint at language school, I went back to teaching at preschool, but this time I'm only working part-time, about 30 hours a week, so it's enough to keep the working visa, and it also gives me enough time to also pursue my hobbies and just have self-care time too. The schedules that I had in Tokyo were like 8 to 5-ish or 9 to 6-ish, and now that I'm working part-time, it's 8 to 3, so I get out of work, there's still daylight, and I can do plenty of things, sort of, after work, except go to the bank because they close at 3 o'clock, but yeah. The majority of my teaching experience has been with the 2 to 3-year-old age range, which is super challenging because it's not really like teaching them English specifically, like you're just teaching them how to be a human being, but doing it in English, and especially at that age, they pick up English very naturally, and their pronunciation is pretty natural too, because they're not even fluent in Japanese yet. They're still babies. So, but it can be challenging because, yeah, they don't really know how to do things. Like, yeah, you have to teach them about sharing toys and following rules like not running in the classroom, and you know, like there's a time and place for everything. But they're so cute, and like, yeah, they really love the teacher, so yeah, so a lot of my day ends up just being a lot of singing, a lot of playtime, and like behavioral teaching, which, yeah, that's challenging, but yeah, they're super cute. They are really gross though, like they don't know how to blow their nose, they don't know how to do anything. Yeah, they don't know the social norms yet, so yeah, I spend a lot of my day wiping kids' noses, and like watching them eat lunch can be pretty gross too, so I guess I've developed a strong stomach. But yeah, overall it's like a really good experience to work with kids that age, and I think it's also taught me a lot about motherhood in a way. Like I know some things to expect in kids this age, so yeah, it's not bad. Of course, I don't want to teach forever, but while I am teaching, this is what I prefer to do. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this video. Hopefully I wasn't rambling for too long. So yeah, let me know what type of teaching job you would want if you were to come to Japan to teach. And yeah, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and if I don't know the answer, then I will direct you to someone or some source that will have the answer. So thank you so much for watching, and catch you guys in the next one. Bye!